welcome. It's our first ABCD OpenScholar of the year. Today we are going to be discussing understanding search engine optimization and search functionality within OpenScholar. My name is Bree Pendleton. I'm here with Joe Weiner. We are the co-organizers of this group. I see some new faces, so I just figured I would introduce us. We will be recording, so we're doing a screen recording and an audio recording. So hopefully it'll work. About 50% of the time it does not work, but hopefully it will, and so this will be available online hopefully tomorrow or the next day. So for those of you who are new to OpenScholar, there are a lot of different ways to get help. You can go to the community forum and become a part of the community. You can ask questions, report problems, give praise, suggest ideas. You can head over to the OpenScholar documentation website to search for items that you need help with. You can check out our roadmap, and the roadmap gives our users a glance of what our development cycle is. It used to be 6 weeks, but I should edit that. It's now 4 weeks. It could change. And then we also have platform trainings. So giving you the advanced basic around training and using OpenScholar. So I'll get started with talking about OpenScholar search. So how to implement basically a search bar on your OpenScholar site. So there is a widget called the site search widget on your site, allowing you to have your visitors search for content on your site. So if you're using Firefox, it looks something like this. And I can go in full present mode here. And the display just is a simple search bar. So people can type into it and click on the magnifying glass to receive their results. There is a page on understanding site search, which will review a lot of the things we're going to discuss, but we'll add some more to this page after this presentation. So how do you add a search widget to your site? Just like any search widget, you will navigate to the layout of your site via the large configuration gear or going to the control panel. You'll search within your widget gallery for the widget entitled Site Search, and you'll drag and drop that widget into the layout of your site. Once you press save, at the bottom of the layout area, it will save to your site. So there's some things to consider about using the Site Search widget. You want to consider adding it to all sections of your layout so your site visitors can search no matter where they are on the site. So some people put it in certain pages of their site, but it's not available on all pages, and that can be a little bit confusing, especially because the Site Search widget searches the whole site, all of the content on the site. It does not have the ability to search certain areas of your content. We'll talk a little bit more about how it works and how you can kind of alter your search, but so considering adding it to all sections of your site and then placing it in the header so it's always available and visible to your site visitors. We see sometimes people put it in their footer, and that requires that your site visitor is searching for your search bar. So you make it easy for them to use it. Perhaps they will, and they'll find the content that they need. So here's an example of a search result. So here the example or the search term I've used is the word deleting, just the word deleting. And I'm using the ABCD OpenScholar documentation site as my example. So you'll see a couple things happen. The search term deleting by default automatically shows the most relevant in this larger box. See, it's the most relevant content inside this box. But then what happens is that you have options on the side for your visitors to filter that content. So again, we showed originally, it's just here in this box, it shows the relevancy, but then they can choose to search by the title or the type of content, etc. So the main search, so again, this larger area here, how does this work? This is how content is ranked in OpenScholar. By default, the search results are ranked by relevancy. Relevancy, or the relevance, is determined by how many times your search term is present on a page and which part of the page contains the search term. So for example, the title of your page, if it has the word deleting, like in my example, that is it's heavily weighted. So it will promote that up to the top of the main content area. So here we are, that's number one, page title or content inside of that H1 tag. So the page title is an H1 tag in OpenScholar. Content inside H2 or H3 tags, or the name of the author, that comes up next, the next weighting. Number three, content inside of a H4, H5, or H6 tags or taxonomy term names. Number four, content inside an M tag or a strong tag, or in the text of the body, in the body field. And then lastly, other content. Actually, don't think there is other content that exists besides those, but we're leaving that open. So let's review that. So here's the example. In searching the word deleting, you'll see that these were my results in this order, and why. Now, the documentation website is very thorough, it's wonderful, but we don't tend to rely heavily on too many tags and too much taxonomy. But you'll see here that the first search term is called deleting a site, or the first search result is bringing up a post called deleting a site. And that's because the page title has the word deleting in it. And the same for the second search result, deleting in the title. And then lastly, these four other ones just have deleting existing on their page somehow. And basically, if you were to look further, you would see that on administrative settings, deleting shows up higher on the page than does on the members' roles page, on removing a file, account information, etc. So how do you use or add H1, H2, H3 tags to your site? So again, using the H1 tag, the H1 tag is the title of your page. So when you go and name a title, or name a page, you know that is the H1 title. So you want to be smart about how you name your pages. And then for the rest of them, you have the area within your WYSIWYG area, there's a formatting drop-down where you are able to tag your content with different heading styles. Okay? And there's information and a link to the documentation site that shows you more about that. And further, you'll see that outside of the main body area, you remember that there were some items that you could filter, or your site visitor could filter through to find what they need. So again, the default view will be the relevancy of that content. They can click on author or title or date created or type of content, looking for what they might need. They can also filter by post date or post type or taxonomy terms. And the search results page, so over here, this column, they allow for faceted filtering. So you'll see that here in this example, I wanted to look at app content from 2013. And so you can see that it's searching by two different types of these terms in this area to provide me with my new search results, which will be here. Okay. So we use Apache Solar Search. We don't have a technical person in-house to talk about Apache, but basically it's an open source platform built upon the Java library called Lucene. It's a popular search platform for websites. It allows for that faceted taxonomy filtering. So that's why we like it for OpenScholar. And if you have questions about that, you could definitely ask me, and I can bring it back to the development team and get those answers for you. Within your search layout, and I'm going to hop out of the presentation and show you this in real time, you're able to control what gets shown on your search results page, and that's exciting. So let me just escape here, and I'll go over to the documentation site. I will do that search again. I'll search for deleting, the term deleting. And it's going to log me in, and you'll see that I have my search results here. And I've got all of these other, what we know as different kind of widgets that show up on the side, where our site visitors can filter through and click on to control their search a little bit more. But as an administrator or a site owner, you can log into your site. And going to your configuration gear from a search results page. So remember, I'm on the search results page for the term, or the search term deleting. I can go to my configuration gear and I can go to the layout. Okay, so I'm going to layout, and here you'll see in a minute that I'm able to remove certain content or move it around. So I've got the drag and drop functionality here, right? I can drag things around, or I can just plain remove things. So you'll see that there's a recommendation called more like this. So it's just presenting content that might be related, and I feel like that's a little bit too maybe squishy for me, so I'm going to remove it by clicking on the X. And then I see that some of these, they're not very clear, and that's okay, but you can open up a separate screen and go back and forth to sort of see what you can make changes to, but I'll remove this one too, and I'll just press save. And back at the page itself, you're going to find that I have removed a couple of items. So it's a little cleaner. I've controlled it a bit more, and that might work for me. Now again, I've only changed the layout or the look of this page called deleting, the search term page with the term deleting on it, right? All right, let's keep going. There's also an area for search settings. So back on your configuration gear, when you select it, you've got this ability to change your search settings. And this is a little bit misleading because we just went to the layout and we changed the layout of the search term page for deleting. But when we select the search settings, we're making a global change. We're making a site-wide change. We're not just making a change for just this one page. And this is, it is confusing. But you'll see here that I could pull in content from a subsite. Now I don't have a subsite for the OpenScholar documentation site, but if I did, it would pull content from my subsite, my child site. Or I could go and find another site, unrelated, but it would also have to be OpenScholar, and put a site here to add results on my site. Does that make sense? Yeah, Peter.
Can you only add one site?
No, you can add multiple sites. That's right, right? Yeah, I think just by a comma, it'll be fine. Okay, so if I were to search for economics, oh, look at that. Let's look at economics. We've got weatherhead here. There we go. Maybe it will pop up, but it wouldn't show results from that page because it's locked. Maybe it would say, okay, I don't know the difference between what is and what isn't, but I wouldn't show results because it wouldn't probably pass. Or it could be a huge bug. Put that in the community, Kristen. And we got HDS in the house. We could search for the Divinity School. See if they're showing up in here. There we go. Lots of Divinity School. So you could include that. Yes.
It has to be a site that will automatically populate.
Just like if you were to search a member, it would be something that lives within OpenScholar at Harvard. So some of you know that there are different areas of OpenScholar. So I would only be able to find, well, I don't think that's true anymore because Docs is on projects and Econ is on HDD2. Forget I said anything. Yes. The answer is yes. It will search it if it's on OpenScholar. But so what would be a good use case for adding another site to another site's result to your site? So for example, the ABCD-OpenScholar site. People come there because they know about this group, but they also might try to use the search bar to search for help for OpenScholar. So over on that site, it would make sense for Joe and I to connect the two via this option. Not on this site pointing to that site, but maybe both would work. Maybe there would be a connection to both. So you would have to find the right use case to connect your search results together, but it makes sense. Yes. Please.
I would like to search faculty sites.
Okay, let's see. Let's search to see. Yeah, I'm thinking that. Right, so the question is, can we add individual faculty sites to something? So I'll search for Ben Friedman. Let's see that. There's Friedman Lab coming up, but not, I guess we would have to see, we'd have to test this. Because
I'm not sure if it will, but for that particular use case, you can actually build a software that has what you use and not related to what we were talking about, but you can actually search all the documents.
So the question is, just to repeat for people who are listening and watching while not being here, over at scholar.harvard.edu, Joe is saying that you can go and you can search an individual's site from here. And then, Joe, how would they then go about bringing that content in, or would they not?
Yeah, we actually tested it. You could theoretically be able to bring in content into your site.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to search that site. So that's one use case that I did test.
All right, so we'll have to look into that, but that's something interesting, and I can send that out to the group via email. How do you go about if a site doesn't show up in this other website search when you type into the box, what do you do and what are next steps? So that's a great question, and we can follow up with that. Let's see, let's go back to here and let's check this out. Search FAQs, just a couple. Can I control what appears on my search results page? And yes, you can control the relevancy of the content, but you can't drag and drop information on a search results page to kind of promote what you would want people to see. You would just have to be a little bit wiser about how you name your page titles, how you use your headings, but you want them to be relevant to the content, not kind of alter them so your search result looks a certain way, 'cause it would start getting weird once they were to click into that page, not find what they needed. So you want to first be sure to use heading tags that are appropriate, with the hope that you could just slightly change the heading titles to make a change to the search results. Can I have a search bar, search widget, search within a certain app content type like publications? So I said that before, but no, you can't. Search applies to the whole site, but you can add taxonomy items or taxonomy terms to your content, allow for filtering. So as we know, on the search results page, they provide you with kind of, and I can do this search again for deleting, you'll see that it allows for your site visitors to filter content based on the type of content that it is or other type of taxonomy that you have applied on your site. What other? Yeah, go ahead now.
Like that was a request that I put in community, having certified content type, and I thought that was one of the people to be developed.
It could be. We have so many in the backlog. I could check it for you when Joe's presenting. You can check.
You have to actually use the password. Your content, by content type. So, yeah, there's no way to have, there are people that have requested to have publications for that feature
Mm-hmm. Yep. Right, that's exactly right. So for the recording, what you can do instead of feeling like everything has to exist on your search page, you can provide in-page context pointing to a list or a term page. So you've selected and tagged your content with an appropriate term, create a widget or an inline link to point to the content that you want for them to find versus having them rely on the search. That is also something that you could do. So what other questions we have about using the site search widget or site search in general? And then Joe will talk about search engine optimization. Do we have any questions about that? It's not 100% what you want it to be, but it's a little bit, it's good knowing where it comes from. And there is an algorithm that we use in Apache to figure out the weighting. So if anybody wants to know more about that, we could definitely look into it. But with that, I will give it over to Joe to talk about search engine optimization. You ready? That's my...
Okay, great. I'm Joe. I work with Bree. So this part of the presentation is more of a general talk about search engine optimization and how it integrates with OpenScholar as well. So basically, SEO is, search engine optimization is how your pages are listed in search rankings and how they're indexed. And it involves, from our perspective, best practices on making your site more visible to more users. So one of the things that OpenScholar does is that it allows you to put, let's go back, a description for your site. in the site settings. This is a meta description. It's basically an overview for what your site is about, and it usually shows up right here in the search results. If you don't enter that, it'll actually take some of the text from your site and try to create it itself. For all of your interior pages, you can customize what shows up in a search result for that page. So if we're looking at this, so on the documentation site, there's a page called Getting Started. And if we edit it, we can see what it does. And while we're doing that, we can do a search for OpenScholar Getting Started. So you can see the descriptive text here. It actually matches what is on this page. Let's see if we can edit this. Edit this page. Okay. All right. So it's not letting me in, but oh, okay. Are you sure? Yes. There we go. All right. So once this loads up, you're going to see on the right-hand side of the page a tab called SEO. And within here, we added a custom meta description. And you can see that this text matches what Google shows. So you have some control over that. Otherwise, it would have grabbed probably the first sentence of the content on that page. So you have the site level and also page level control of that description. All right, so we just talked about that the site level is in your settings. You click on here. It's the field down below here. There we go. So we have a custom meta description here. And basically what this does on the underlying HTML is put a meta tag that Google reads and knows what to populate in its search result. So one of the general things you should know about SEO is this concept of PageRank. So PageRank is an algorithm pretty much that tries to determine what is the most relevant or popular link or URLs related to the keyword search that you're doing. Different search engines have proprietary factors. I know Google has a ton of factors, but probably the most critical factor that Google uses is the referring links. So if you want your site or your page to be high up in the rankings, the more referring links you have to your site, the better your page rank is generally going to be. And there's a lot of other factors that we'll talk about in the next slide. But these can be referring sites. You know, Harvard.edu has a link to your site, and that's a heavy traffic site. There's a lot of visitors. That's going to score high in PageRank. And if you want to look at this slideshow afterwards, there's a link to more info on a lot of these slides, so you can get more info. So I put down some SEO best practices. things to do to help your pages get a better page rank. So the first thing is write content or copy that's well written, that's accurate, and written in a very natural way. Google will basically look through the content, and if there's, what I mean by density, if the keyword search for shows up there in a similar phrasing, it will give it a higher rank. Meta description text, we just talked about that. OpenScholar gives you an opportunity to enter that both for site and page levels. A descriptive site title or title tags, OpenScholar does this for you. It generates title tags in the HTML that are based on whatever you put in the site title field right here. And this will be in my title tag. It says OpenScholar documentation. And that's what's going to use right here. And then here's a listing for the main site. So that's what's going to use. Okay, link best practices. This also is relevant for SEO. So if you want a link to the Getting Started page, you might want to put the descriptive text, OpenScholar Getting Started, as the text for the link. Now, another way, and a sort of more old-fashioned way, is people use click here, and the word here is the link text. This doesn't tell search engines a heck of a lot about the link. It actually uses that link text to match up with keywords. Alt tags and image and graphics. This gives search engines the ability to gain some insight on the imagery. And if you don't know what an alt tag is, it's a descriptive word or set of words that describe the image. It doesn't appear on the site, but people who have vision impairment, who use screen readers, that actually they'll be able to understand what the image is. And from what I understand, some of the screen readers will read aloud the alt text. And this feature is built right into OpenScholar. It also increases accessibility of your site. Your accessibility score, which is very important, allows more users to view the content. And it's also a high priority from Harvard Web Publishing and Harvard's standpoint to make sure all of our websites are accessible. Another big thing is social networking promotion. Referring links in general, right, are important, but social media as well. That factors into page rank. So that might be a use case where you might want to start thinking about getting into social media and using social media. There is a lot of overhead there before you do it, and this presentation is not about social media, but in regards to page rank, those links do count. So those are all best practices. Got some other things just to know about. Some people try to manipulate page rank. And here are some concepts, if you will. One thing is a Google bomb. The most famous Google bomb was a bunch of blog authors got together in 2003, and they had a link that was titled "Miserable Failure," and it went to George W. Bush's profile at the White House. And whenever you type that in, that was the highest page that came up first. And so they were able to do that, manipulate sort of the page rank by sort of conspiring together, but that sort of illustrates that that the number of links really contributes to the page rank. Link farming, this is sort of another way that people are trying to manipulate page rank. There's automated or intentional, basically, sites that list links. and try to increase their page rank. One thing that Google does now is it's sort of smarter about all this stuff, so it doesn't allow people to do this. So if it's a bunch of links that have nothing to do with each other, and Google will be suspicious, so it might not work anymore. Link shorteners, such as Bitly, I know Harvard has one, Twitter has one. These actually don't obscure, these actually help your page rank, and they're counted as referral links. Google doesn't look at that Bitly link. It just it actually redirects. If you create one of these links, it'll redirect to the actual URL, and Google will count the actual URL because of the kind of redirect that it does. Semantic web. The semantic web is a relatively new concept. It uses a framework called RDF, and basically what it tries to do is take all the information on the web and try to standardize how it's noted in the HTML markup, so it can get a sense of the data that lives out on the internet. It's still a little bit of the Wild West. For those of you that know a little about HTML, that you can sort of identify, let's say, a person's profile and their title and their picture with names such as classes and IDs, that there's no rules. You can name it whatever you want. So when search engines try to analyze the data that's on the site, they might not know that it's a person and a person's picture and where they work. So this framework tries to standardize some of that. So in the search results, and you may have seen this already, in the search results, you Google someone's name, you might have a little profile on the side that's starting to use RDF. And OpenScholar does this automatically. So I don't know if this makes much sense, but so in the RDF world, you basically, instead of having a class under the person's name, you'll have standardized property equals name. When a search engine looks at that, it knows that it's somebody's name. And you have to do that every time. It's a standard, so it can collect that data and then present information in a more structured way. So it's kind of cool, but OpenScholar and sort of the underlying content management system, Drupal, it does that automatically. So that helps. It's good to know about, good to know about dark social. We talked about social media. So dark social is links that are passed on, that are clicked on from sources that cannot be tracked, email, chat, mobile apps. They'll show up in Google Analytics as direct traffic or other. Sometimes Google Analytics cannot identify what kind of traffic it is. But there are tools out there that help identify those sources, and hopefully we move towards being able to capture that a little bit because it's increasing in terms of its use, especially within chat and mobile apps. People are sending referral links. So it's just good to know about that. I think we talked about this a little bit. Search result, you basically have the site title and the URL, description, which we can control, and then oftentimes you have site links. Site links are the links that Google thinks are the most relevant, and it will create those. If you're the top hit on Google, it will add site links to your result. There are some tools out there that allow you to define what site links you want. Maybe you don't want resources as your sort of first site link. Maybe you want a different site link. Google Webmaster Tools is a tool that's out there that allows you to define those and control a lot of your a lot of what's being indexed by Google anyway. I brought it up because it's a great tool, but truth be known, caveats, OpenScholar will not be able to work with Google Webmaster Tools at this time because of the technical issue. And then secondly, G.Harvard accounts are not eligible to create Google Webmaster accounts. The reason is G.Harvard is integrated with a lot of Google products, Google Drive, Gmail, Calendar. However, it's not integrated with Google Webmaster Tools. So it'd be nice if it was. So maybe eventually we'll get there. And so we talked about this already. This is the site title, meta description. Google Analytics, this is just a quick overview. You definitely create an account. There is a place in OpenScholar where you can just copy and paste the tracking code. You just go to google.com/analytics and create an account for free as long as you have some kind of Google ID. Let me just say something quick about this is ideally, if you're an FAS, it's probably better to use a G.Harvard to access Google Analytics. If you have a couple people accessing it, it does work with your Gmail. But the reason why G.Harvard is better, if somebody leaves Harvard, they can be turned off in terms of access automatically. Whereas if it's their personal account, you have to remember to go in and remove them from there, or else, there can be people who have left Harvard who still have access to analytics. So G.Harvard is preferable if you're an FAS who are eligible for G.Harvard accounts.
Share that account with other people.
All right, so we have just an overview of the structure of Google Analytics. When you create an account, you have these terms that kind of may not be so intuitive. Your account is basically just you log in, it's your access point. Your property, you can think of that as your website, individual URL. You can have up to 50 per Google Analytics account. And again, the account is still tied to an owner, and you have to have like a Gmail or G.Harvard. And then within that property, you can have profiles. The way we set up ours, we just have a master profile that just shows all the information, but you can have customizable views that use filtering. So you could have your master profile, and then you could have filtering of just, let's say you want a certain population, you just want to understand what they're doing. You can apply a filter to another profile. But you never want to delete your master profile because it's a little easier to get back now, but it's hard to get back unless you have premium Google Analytics. So if you have a master profile and you create a new profile with some filtering and custom reports, just leave the master profile alone. There's no reason to delete it. Even after you move to a new site, it's good to have the archive there for historical purposes, so you never want to delete that. So here's where you just copy and paste the tracking ID right into your site in the site settings. And what OpenScholar does, it just, on every page it automatically throws the tracking code in there. You don't have to do anything, so it just shows up automatically. Google tracks it. All right, so here's some other resources and where I got some of this information right here. So if you want to view the presentation on ABCD OpenScholar website,